Back to the Future on 4K Ultra HD, and here's my thoughts and review and favorite parts. So, for Father's Day, I decided that I wanted my kids to watch Back to the Future with me. Little did they all know I had already begun prepping their small minds with the little golden book of Back to the Future. So, I had my 7-year-old boy, 4-year-old girl, 2-year-old girl, all watching the show with me, and the part when the Libyans machine gun down Doc at the beginning, like all three of them are just like, it's like, oh my gosh. Uh, I was just like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. He's gonna go to young Doc's house, and then my 4-year-old, I asked her what her favorite part was. Her favorite part was the car. She liked the car, and my 7-year-old son's favorite part was the Darth Vader part, where Marty goes to George and tells him to take Lorraine to the dance in a hazmat suit, and then he also loved when Doc Brown revealed that he had a bulletproof vest on. So that was my 7-year-old's two favorite parts. But they all really liked it, and even the 2-year-old stayed watching it the whole time. So I never noticed this part, but when it's showing all the different clocks in Doc Brown's house, look at this. Look, it's a Buster Keaton clock. All right, I want to say something about the 4K image on this thing. It is nearly perfect. It is absolutely incredible. The best I've ever seen it. I felt like I was just watching a 35 millimeter film, and there's so much awesome detail in this movie. Like right now in the present in 1985, there's like older makeup on Principal Strickland. You can see his neck. They've like got wrinkly stuff on there. But the thing is, like, you can see every detail of the makeup, but it's still convincing with how it looks. And then the Dolby Atmos soundtrack sounded really good, very, very robust. So amazing 4K. Also, I love that Mr. Strickland, when he's telling Marty that he's worthless and he's never going to mount to anything, he's like touching his nose on there. That's pretty amazing. I don't think you'd see that in a movie now. So, have you ever noticed that the song that Marty's band, the Pinheads, is playing is basically like an alternate, more rock sounding version of The Power of Love by Huey Lewis? By the way, that's Huey Lewis. It's awesome. Look at him. His dorky hair.
Hold it, fellas. I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
Aw, Huey Lewis, come on. What about rock and roll? So, one thing about the present, 1985, in Hill Valley is that if you really pay attention to what's going on in the background, like it still looks like a kind of okay place, but there's a ton of like run down and kind of unwholesome stuff in several scenes. So you've got, I mean, Goodwill, that's not that bad, but you have like this thing right here. It's just like out of business and kind of scary looking. And later, when you see the titles of the movies that are at the theater, they're definitely not family movies that are there. But this just makes it contrast even more when you go back to the 1955 and see what a different time it was. So it's really his part doesn't look particularly bad, maybe just like a little rough. But it really stands out once you're in 1955 and everything's like beautiful and shiny and like nice. There you go. Here's another example: adult books, and then like a bonds, like a bail bond kind of thing. So it's definitely kind of a trashier part of town. Also, not speaking of which, but speaking of this movie, Marty right now is talking about what if he gets rejected while playing music. He doesn't know if he could take that kind of rejection, and we'll see later that that's the exact language his dad is using when he's talking about writing books. He doesn't know if he could ever let anyone read his book because he doesn't know if he could handle the rejection. So you can see that insecurity has been passed down to his son, which is interesting because you're going to see his son gain more confidence and then instill more confidence in his dad. All right, so if you remember the part when Marty's holding onto the back of the trucks and all my kids are like, wow, he's such a cool teenager. Look at this. You probably never noticed this before. There's a fake dog right there. That is a fake dog. Marty's home life is actually pretty rough. His parents, I mean, it really goes out of its way to show that he has a normal family, but that they're all like total losers. The makeup looks really good on these guys. But look at look at how good she is at portraying herself as being completely miserable. Also, you can see the good makeup on his face
Your father
and her
kissed
face.
me for the very first time on that dance floor.
There's a little bit of a happy memory there.
And it was then that I realized
And then look at
that I was going to spend the rest of my life with him.
almost a look of disgust and sadness. Look at her eyes. That's pretty rough. So the movie's really setting us up to make a better future when they come back. All right, I love this part when they're at Twin Pines Mall, and the DeLorean's about to come towards them. Watch how the awesome, just like eye acting of both of these guys. So you got Doc Brown, and then he's sneaking away, and look at his eyes. He looks at him, they make eye contact. He just like looks down at the ground. He's like, "That's where you're supposed to be standing." But it's just like the perfect acting. Christopher Lloyd's acting is so incredible in this movie. All right, so I grew up watching this movie. I really can't remember a time that this movie wasn't in my life, mostly because there was only a couple months of my life that this movie was not in my life. But this line, I don't know if it's ever stood out to me like it did this time. It's major foreshadowing for the second movie. Listen to this. So he's talking about that he's going to go into the future. Also, here's some awesome Doc Brown 1985 version makeup. Still holds up very well under the scrutiny of the 4K. But listen to what he says he's going to see in the future.
Seen the progress of mankind.
Would I?
I'll also be able to see who wins the next 25 World Series. Doc.
Okay. Next 25 World Series. So he doesn't say anything else. He's not like, and I'll get super rich or I'll place bets or anything. But it's kind of implied that that's what he means. It's implied that he's going to see who wins and that he can possibly come back and bet in their favor and get super rich. Kind of like Biff's plan. So is Doc Brown's plan kind of what Biff ended up doing when he got the almanac in the second movie? I don't know. Either way, it's cool foreshadowing for the next movie, and it's incredible writing. So this is an interesting part. So you've got the Libyan guy here shooting Doc with one of these. And interesting thing about these, Alpha Kilo 47, just trying to not have the YouTube algorithm freak out on me, but they don't actually jam very much. And so there's an interesting line that you can really only notice in the subtitles here. Okay, so Marty comes around the corner and yells at them. And then he tries to shoot and it jams. And look at this. So he just keeps pulling on the charging handle. And then you see that he's like messing with the magazine. Because really one of the most common malfunctions for this weapon would be if the magazine's not in all the way and the bullet can't feed properly. But other than that, it's really not going to malfunction that much. But you can see he's pulling on that charging handle. So I'm not really sure what would cause this malfunction. So you see right before the scene change, he starts messing with the magazine. Right there, right in his hands on it. So if he changed the magazine, I could see how he could keep firing, or if he reseated it or something, but it's a really weird malfunction where he's actually able to shoot a little bit and then it stops and shoot a little bit and stops. So maybe the magazine was not seated all the way. That's the only thing that I could think of with this. Okay, but watch as he struggles with the gun. Watch what the subtitle says. Wait for it. Wait for it. You see that? Anyway, maybe it's his first day with one of those, and he's just sitting there pulling the charging handle over and over. It's not gonna work for him. He's hitting it. He's pulling on it. Works sometimes, doesn't work other times. All right, look at this beautiful shot of the DeLorean. Beautiful. So I had a dream that my wife got me a DeLorean for Father's Day, but it wasn't just a DeLorean. It was a DeLorean that was decked out in Back to the Future stuff. It was really awesome. It was one of my favorite shots of the movie here. But Crispin Glover, is so good in this movie. He's totally believable as like a high school kid right here. and he was like an adult earlier, and he's so good at acting, just like a total dork in this movie. So it was interesting watching this with my kids. On the peeping Tom part, I turned the screen off, and they're like, "Wait, what are you doing? What's he doing up in that tree?" And it's just like, you can find out later. and then I turn the screen back on when he falls out of the tree, and they're like, "What's he doing?" And it's just like, well, I'm not ready for that conversation with you guys yet. So he's just up in the tree, and then he gets not hit by the car. My 7-year-old picked up very quickly what was going on with Lorraine and how she was feeling. She's like, "Wait, are they going to fall in love?" And I'm like, no. Nope, they're not. And that's what Marty just figured out. And then this is one of my all-time favorite lines. One, Doc's response to him saying heavy, but he just goes right back into talking about how he's got to get his mom and dad together. But just listen to how he says they have to get together.
Wesley! Whoa, this is heavy. There's that word again, heavy. Why are things so heavy in the future? Is there a problem with the Earth's gravitational pull? What? The only way we're going to get those two to successfully mate is if they are alone together.
The only way we're going to get those two to successfully mate is if they are alone together. Successfully mate? Who says that? Doc Brown is one of a kind. So here's another line of dialogue that super sets up how different his new future is going to be.
Common interests. What do they like to do together?
Look at him.
Nothing. Look! There's a rhythmic ceremonial ritual coming.
Rhythmic ceremonial ritual. What do they like to do together? Nothing, Marty says. Compared to what they do at the end, they just get back from playing tennis. They're so much different as a couple at the end. And so it's interesting, all these little lines that just set up how crazy the end's going to be. All right, this little conversation here is where we really see the parallel lives of the dad and the son here. And the dad says the exact same line that Marty just said to his girlfriend in the future, or in the present, when he was talking about his band. So Marty's trying to read some of the sci-fi writing that George is writing, and listen to what he says.
Get out of town. I didn't know you did anything creative. Let me read something. Oh, no.
And why not?
I never let anybody read my stories. Why not? Well, what if they didn't like them? What if they told me I was no good?
So that is exactly what Marty said. And so clearly his dad's personality had rubbed off on him growing up and had actually hurt Marty's confidence as well. And so they both have an arc here. But listen to what George says next.
I guess that would be pretty hard for somebody to understand.
Look at Marty's face.
No, not hard at all.
He totally understands because they have the exact same problem. I love this line a little bit later after that last scene where he's briefing him on the battle plan on when he's going to go beat up Marty to rescue Lorraine from him in the car, which obviously doesn't end up going that way. But listen to what Marty says to him. And I think he's also saying it to himself at the same time.
It sounds so easy. I wish I wasn't so scared. George, there's nothing to be scared of. All it takes is a little self-confidence.
Look,
You know, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
see that? So that's Marty at the beginning of the movie is like, "Oh, I'm afraid of rejection if people don't like me." And now look at him. He's growing up, he's getting confidence, but he's gaining confidence while he's trying to instill confidence, trying to give self-confidence to his dad. So it's actually it's like a parallel journey of them both having the same problem in a different way. They both share the same artistic insecurity, him for his music, him for his writing, but also they have insecurities in life as well and being able to face their problems. All right, as a bi nerd, somebody who likes both Star Wars and Star Trek, I've always loved this part where it's a melding of both of them. But the reason this scene's awesome is because Marty's like, "You gotta ask her to the dance," and he's like, "No, not you or anyone else on this planet." And then it's like, here comes someone from another planet to convince you.
Silence, Earthling! My name is Darth Vader.
Look at
I am an extraterrestrial from the planet Vulcan.
He's doing the The Vulcan thing. That's so good. My son loves this part. All right, so in this diner, my density has popped me to you scene, which I love so much. I noticed this time is you've got a guy by the door reading what you can tell is a Mad magazine from the 50s. But so they're in 1955, but obviously this is 1985 when they're making the movie. But if you look at the magazine, how super yellowed it is. I don't know if how yellow that is comes through on the phone, but I think he's reading an actual vintage 30 years old Mad magazine. So obviously this is like a 1985 person dressed like a 1955 person for the movie, but that prop I think is an actual 30-year-old magazine because it's like super yellowed. I just thought that was interesting. Biff does the classic stand-up slow maneuver that he does. look at Marty's eyes. It's so amazing. Such a perfect freeze frame right here. All right, here's Marty in 1955 keeping a low profile so he doesn't alter the future, you know. Look at Lorraine's hair. Look at that. Oh my gosh. You see this? Wow. I don't know if it's the 4K or what, but that is some silky looking hair on that part. Look at that in slow motion. My goodness. Some hair commercial silky hair right there. My goodness. Wow. Here's another interesting bit of time destiny here. We find out that Doc has been watching the end of the tape over and over and over, right where he says, I don't know how they found me, but they found me. Run for it, Marty. I think he knows that that's where he dies. And very, very interesting. And so then obviously when Marty keeps trying to push this letter on him or keeps trying to tell him, I think he knows exactly what Marty's trying to tell him. All right, cop asks Doc if he's got a permit for this. He says, of course I do. And then we're watching Marty sneak the letter in his coat, but watch what Doc's doing. He opens up his wallet to the bill portion. I think his permit is going to be a cop bribe. Doc. All right, so this is my new all-time favorite part of this entire movie, and it super gets me in the feels, and I think this is kind of the crux of the entire movie right here. You've got George, who's thinking he's going to open the door to Marty, and he's going to fake punch Marty, and then he's going to get a date out of it. But he opens and sees Biff, literally the scariest person in his entire life, who pretty much dictates a lot of how he spends his time. So he opens it and sees Biff, and George's face is actually really terrified, but he's still standing there. And look at this. So he said the line. He said the, hey, you get your hands off her. But then look, this is his own line.
You leave her alone.
Yes. So then George does one of the saddest displays of a human punch ever, when he just like punches Biff like in the chest, and Biff grabs his arm and he's twisted around. Anyway, and then Biff throws Lorraine on the ground because she jumps on his back and she's like, stop. So he's like terrified and shocked, but then watch him dig deep here. So he digs deep. Also, a lesson to learn if you're outmatched is you have to wait your turn, right? Because at first he did his little strike and it was really sad and he's getting his arm twisted. But now he's waiting his turn and this guy gets distracted. But look at him dig deep. He's terrified. He starts to get mad and determined. Yes. And that could not have gone more perfectly because the Marty plan, 1, was gross, but 2 just would not have had the same chutzpah. So just wouldn't have had the same impact if he didn't actually stand up for her himself. And the interesting thing is immediately after that, they go in here and they're dancing and it's like, yay. And she's like, are you going to kiss me? And he's still like, I'm too nervous. And then the redhead guy comes in. and steals it. And then look, he gets all scared again, so he's got to dig deep all over again. Marty starts disappearing. And this is exactly how I feel when a migraine starts. Just like Marty right here, where his hand is see-through. So then I think it's a little bit overkill that he shoves the guy all the way to the ground. But the point is he's got his self-confidence and he is standing up for the woman he loves, or that Darth Vader told him to take on a date. But then the people in school are like, hey, George, have you ever thought of running for class president? Which I don't think they would have done if he just would have like punched Marty in the stomach. You know what I mean? Like the fact that it was Biff is like completely changed his life. It's like a high profile victory. So then they kiss. Marty gets back. I'm not gonna lie, this part where he looks at the picture would be the perfect time for a bunch more kids to go boop, 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 boop. So Marty gets back to the future, and his little plan to get there 10 minutes early and warn Doc didn't work because the car broke down. But look, now he's at Lone Pine Mall. It used to be Twin Pine Mall, but he ran over one of them. Changed the name of the mall in the future. All right, so you got Doc right there, and it looks like he was too late because here he is getting gunned down again. But this is where we get into the little golden book of Back to the Future. Listen to how this book deals with this part. All right, so Zap goes back in time, and then, wait for it, look where he, so it's like, success! Marty reappeared in his own time, and older Doc Brown was right where he'd left him. Right where he'd left him, gunned down in the parking lot. This book is so awesome. It's just so simplistic for kids. It's like, it's true. It's absolutely true. He left him. He was right where he left him, which is on the ground full of bullet holes. These little golden books are awesome. They're gateway drugs for my kids to enjoy scary 80s movies. All right, and here is the line that is the perfect closure to both the father and the son's arcs in this movie. This is what George says. First of all, that's a creepy sounding book.
You put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Oh, Marty!
Like I've always told
Marty, here's
you.
your keys.
And
You're
it's
all
like,
waxed up, ready?
you mean like Marty told you in 1955? Either way, though, it's awesome because it kind of changed the trajectory of his life. So they both have confidence. Awesome. Parallel arc accomplished. Beep, 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 beep. All right, Back to the Future on 4K. This movie looks and sounds absolutely incredible. I have bought this movie so many times, but this is the last time I'm buying it, dang it. And this was so fun to watch with my kids, and they loved it after making it through the scary parts. Anyway, thanks for watching. Bye.